anything like me, you're probably getting pretty tired of sorting through chests, and I'm hoping that today we can solve that very problem with getting ourselves set up a storage solution. Now, of course, our ultimate goal for storage would be applied energistics, but we're not quite there yet. So before we get there, as it's going to probably take a bit of time, and we're going to be doing a lot of exploring and collecting a lot of items, we probably should figure this out, well, sooner than later. Now, if you've gotten super lucky like I did and in your airdrop got a storage terminal, you are in luck. But do not fret if you haven't got one yet, because the production of these materials are actually quite simple. None of this is really that hard, and we have all of the resources to be able to make them. It is just a few crafting steps, a little bit of pistons, and definitely the crystallized mineral chunks. Now, I do happen to have a few mineral chunks, which could allow me to get started with this a bit faster, but I still think I'm going to need a few more than that. So in our dirt sleuth, we actually have mineral saplings, and we really only need one to sort of get started with this and get jump started. So I have an area here that is a 3x3, because this does require a little bit of a growing space. We can just simply grow these mineral saplings into mineral trees, and we're going to need all of the drops that this thing provides. And there we go. Ah, yes, mineral. Now, getting started here, I would recommend about a stack of these logs to really get this early game setup up and rolling. Now, we're also going to need a little bit of dye, which I do have, and we're going to need some iron. So this is going to allow us to make a drying basin, and then we also need a squeezer, which is going to cost an entire block of iron. The goal is to eventually have this sort of automated, but for right now, we're going to somewhat automate it. And I'm not going to use power to automate it. It's going to be kind of cool. Now, to pseudo automate this, we really just need the drying basin, squeezer, 2 armor stands, a redstone repeater, a couple of hoppers, and a little dabble of redstone. That's really all we're going to need for this. So let's go ahead and get this started. So the squeezer by default, if you jump on it, will do this sort of number, right? But to be able to get it back up, we actually need to give it a redstone signal. But typically that would involve you using a piston, or sorry, using a pressure plate, and you would stand on it, and then you would jump and repeat, and you would just continue squishing this with your feet. But this doesn't always work out so well, especially if you're on a server, for example. You may end up encountering some issues. But with this automation, you could do this on a server and it'll work just fine. Now, you do want to make sure that you put your drying basin along the path of this little channel that you see right here. And yeah, that's all we're going to need. So we can technically have an entity auto stand on the armor stand. Yeah, it is actually a thing that can be done, but we are going to need at least 2 armor stands in order to give it enough entity weight to compress this all the way down. So I will just go ahead and put 2 of these on top of each other. Notice they've already compressed this a little bit. And then if I put a pressure plate down, we can launch them up in the air, and then they will drop this all the way down. That's what we want to automate, them getting shot up in the air and coming back down. So eventually we will be able to automate this with energy. We'll have a generator. We'll be able to use the mechanical versions of these. But early on, this is one of the best ways to do this. So now we just have to set up a simple repeater. So let's make a redstone torch, and we're going to put the redstone torch, a little bit of redstone, to use. And we can go ahead and use a log, for example, right here. Let's go ahead and have this set up just like so, and we'll have our redstone torch here. Now, the redstone torch is going to emit a redstone signal, but we want to take that redstone signal and send it back into the block with the repeater set to 2 ticks like this, and then just simply run the redstone back around. And voila, we have automated the squeezing. Well, I guess not 100% just yet, right? Because we do need to put a hopper to send items into the squeezer. And then down below here, we need to put a hopper to essentially just hold the items that are being squeezed. Oh yeah, and I almost forgot, this is to automate the mineral early on. So now we can take our lovely mineral logs, toss them in this hopper. They're going to go in here, and you're going to notice right here, it is producing mineral resin. That mineral resin will harden after a short period of time and will produce a block of crystallized mineral. So this is a very, very easy and quick way to get quite a bit of this crystallized mineral chunk, which we are going to need. Now, if you haven't received a terminal, definitely place a piece of glass inside of here, and then this hopper will have to be gone. But whenever it hardens, if I remove this hopper down here, whenever this actually hardens, it should convert into a mineral glass. And this mineral glass right here, like I said, is used in actually crafting the storage terminals. Now, after all of them have processed, voila, we have enough mineral to last us quite a while. So yes, I think it's out with this automation and get ready to turn this into a storage area. Okay. Chosen, how hard is this to actually set up? Because it looks really, really complicated. Well, let me be the one to say that it's not so bad, so long as you don't dive into any of the advanced parts of integrated dynamics, that is. Because the mod we're actually going to be playing with is integrated tunnels. And you're about to be flabbergasted by how easy it actually is to set this system up. All we need to worry about is item interfaces, and we can go ahead and craft a set of 4. We are going to need some logic cables, and then we just need a storage terminal and an inventory to connect it to. And that is literally it. If we place a cable down right here and I add another cable, place down my terminal on that cable, and then I place interfaces on all of the connected chests that I want it to have access to, that's it. If we place these items in here, I can now access and see these items inside of the storage. And we do have a crafting interface and things like that. Now, I don't personally like the GUI being this large, as I do like to see my hotbar, even though I can see it down here. I like to be kind of centered. So I can adjust the grid size just like so. And I personally like the one that kind of feels more like refined storage and applied energistics. And it is this style right here, the grid size large. And what you can do is you can also synchronize with your JEI, which is pretty nice to do as well. And if you like these personal settings here, you can go ahead and mark this as the default setting for any new terminal that you might place down. But in our case, I don't think we're really going to have to worry about that. So now I am willing to use all of my diamonds for storage here, and I want to use and expand our iron chests. And I think 8 of them is going to be a really good number. So we can go ahead and expand on this. There's 8 golden chests. And then all I need is a little bit of glass and a little bit of diamond to make these chests incredibly large. And yeah, 8 of these diamond chests are a lot of storage that is going to last us quite a while. So I'm going to place these just like this. And then on the back here, I'm going to place a couple of chests. And then I can just run the cable right down the middle. And this makes it a little bit more expandable. And then we need to place these interfaces just like this on these containers. Now, this is how large these chests are, so they will hold quite a bit, but hopefully by the time these are filled up, we can easily just add some more. And this is where the quality of life really starts to change, because now I can just simply dump all of my stuff in here and I can search and pull them out as needed or craft as needed, including all of our chunks and all kinds of overflow material. This just makes life a lot easier. And who do we have to thank? Whoever the airships are coming from, probably. This storage is only going to aid to our survival, and boy, we're going to need all the help we can get. Now, right as I was about to start clearing out the storage, oh man, we have another airdrop incoming. Right over here. But while I wait for the airship to show up, this container right here, I need to start clearing out because I'm actually going to turn this into a little bit of a doorway now that we have this nice storage set up and ready to go. So let's take a look at what this airship is packing. Let's see. Ooh, we got some more replica. Ooh, glyph of item pickup is really good. And we got a building gadget? No way. Okay, I'll take the building gadget. Thank you very much. Even though at this point, I think now we can actually craft them. But yeah, we are getting very close to a point where we can actually start working on some sort of quote unquote modular base building. We're not there just yet, but we are definitely getting pretty darn close. And so new door has been installed. We now have ourselves a mineral door. I'm still though debating on whether or not I should clear this entire area out. I know I want to get all of the chests essentially moved out of here, but we're gonna see. Now, if you have a magnet, something you can actually do that'll make the transferring of all of your stuff really easy is, well, just break all of the chests that have your stuff in it. Just be careful if you're on a server that is clearing items. You wouldn't want that to happen. But yes, they will follow you, and then you could just stand here and insert all of your items like this. Yeah, you know what? I think it might be time to actually clear out this ship and, well, take all of its components for scrap. The mighty pod has definitely served us well, but it is definitely time to go. Now, I'm thinking this center area could be nice and grassy, but I'm not going to be staying here forever. I just want to simply place some materials in. Now, we did get the building gadget. You can see how easy this is to actually just place in blocks with this thing. Definitely recommend checking it out. And the default key is G to open up the GUI for it. But there might be some conflicts, so keep that in mind. You might have to change some keybinds to get it to work properly. We should now have some grass seeds that we can use to spread some grass over the base. But there's a few caveats with having grass up here. We can grow grass, but I believe flowers we cannot actually grow above the sea level. And as of right now, we are technically above sea level. But if I drop this down, it would actually be below sea level. I think we should do that. So let's undo. Just like this. And all we're going to need to do is drop this down a little bit, and I want to make an area right in the middle that is going to technically be lower than the water. Aha. And there we go. That's much better. So yeah, if you're looking to gather some poppies, look at that. We can definitely get them now, just because this is technically one level below the actual sea level. Now, I really needed to give you guys a piece of grass just because we need to touch it just a little bit here before we dive into something a little bit more complicated with integrated dynamics. Well, and tunnels. And that's because even though we may be caveman essentially on this little island stranded here, we actually have one of the most powerful logistics mods tucked underneath our feet. Now hear me out. What if I told you that this mod right here can actually do autocrafting and many other things? Now, to really put this to use, we are going to need to dabble just a little bit into how a logic programmer works. And I am going to show you basically the bare essentials that are needed in order to do autocrafting. For example, if we want to make, I don't know, a crafting table, for example. And so instead of crafting it like this, instead, we can use our system here to actually do this. So I will just make myself a logic programmer, and we can turn this actually into an item form, which does make it a little bit easier for programming our variable cards, which are going to be very necessary. And variable cards are super, super cheap. So we can just grab these. You get 24 variable cards for basically one simple craft. So yeah, let's go ahead and put this to use. We need a crafting interface in order for this to really start to shine. We are going to need a few slime balls for this. And keep in mind, kelp resin is how we can actually get this, and we can cook this up actually in a Farmer's Delight pot. Okay, now 1 second, right before we craft this, if you haven't already clicked that subscribe button, I'd really appreciate it if you did. And you might want to go down there and check and see if you even are subscribed, because you might be surprised to find out you're not. Now, these input variable transporters and output variable transporters are going to be very important for us, especially if we plan on moving items around soon. But yeah, I almost forgot to mention, yeah, you can route items around and filter and do even more than that. But now that we have a crafting interface ready to go, that's basically it. Like, this is game over. We have beat the pack. No, in all seriousness though, we do have the ability to use this on a crafting table. We just need to place it on a crafting table just like that and have it connected to this. And this can actually do regular crafting table crafts. Now it can also do more than that. You can technically have this on top of a furnace, and then you can have it inject the recipe into the furnace. But you do have to make sure that the system recognizes that it gets items that is set in the crafting recipe, which we're going to talk about in a second. It just has to make sure it gets it back in order to complete the craft. Now, inside of this, what says logic cable, but crafting interface, is a few slots that hold variable cards. Now, you can see right here, the variable does not contain a recipe, and that's kind of important because when we open up our logic programmer, ignoring everything that is here except for recipe. And this is where we actually encode our recipe. So let's, for example, say we want a crafting table. Now notice this automatically took all of the tag information and goes, hey, go ahead and use any wood type that we have available and craft a crafting table. And in this case, I actually would like this. But if you shift clicked, you can actually go in here and you can remove that tag and make it very, very strict. And that is something that you would probably want to do for most things. Now, in this particular case, it's not that big of a deal. I just simply want to be able to craft crafting tables. So I put my variable card in here, and now that recipe is assigned. This means I can just place it in here, and now we have a crafting recipe available for crafting tables. And when I search this, you can see it can now craft, and we can select how many and hit next, and then hit craft. just like you would with Applied Energistics, and voila, we now have a crafting table just like that. Now, I think some of the best things to set up for Autocraft in this situation is probably output transformers and also getting your variable transformers, getting these things right here automated so that way you can easily make piping systems. And that means automating things like pistons and so on and so forth. But now, can we use it to fully automate the crafting of the materials in the chest behind us? The answer to that is a resounding yes. And it's not going to be as difficult as you might think. Now, to be able to do this, we are probably going to need multiple crafting riders. Just to demonstrate how this actually works, I will be just using one for right now. And I think we're going to need one per crafting operation that we plan on actually automating. So we are going to need a place to put these. But for right now, I'm just going to place this right here on the back. Now, this crafting rider has some interesting slots. The only one we really need to worry about is craft item. And the cool part about this is we can put a variable card that just contains an item in there. And if we have the crafting pattern available for it, it will always keep at least one crafting set in stock at all times. Just as an example, I'm going to use these copper chunks right here. And let's just assume that we piped into here and we have it now stored in this storage. Perfect. So let's build a recipe and make sure we have a recipe available. So to do this, I will build the recipe. I will basically go, hey, convert some chunks. We'll save that to a variable card, and perfect. I'm going to put that into the crafting interface here, just like we would with Applied Energistics or anything like that. And now we have the craft available and we can manually craft this. But what I really want to do is I want to have this always keep one in stock, especially if I go to, for example, export that particular item that I'm trying to craft somewhere else. This will always keep it in stock. So as soon as a item is piped out, bam, there will be another one ready to be piped out again. So it's just going to allow us to have request crafting, which is very, very cool. Now, we do have to tell that crafter what item to use. So inside of here, this is looking for an item variable, which is just looking for that one particular type of item. So we click item, and then I'm going to go ahead and just craft the item that I want it to keep in stock. And there's our item section right here. We'll place that item in and assign that variable item, the copper cluster, to that card. And it's as simple as that. Now, inside of here, you may struggle with actually getting the item to click in, but it will eventually click in. You just have to give it a second, and you can see that that variable card is now in that slot. I'm gonna go check that out here in a second, but let's now take a look in here and go cluster. So you can see right here, we have the cluster ready to be crafted. And as soon as I put these in there, a cluster was then crafted, and I can just keep pulling these out. It's always going to keep one in stock, and it's always going to be trying to craft this cluster. And whenever it runs out of items, of course, it can't craft, but it'll wait until it receives more of them and then continue crafting. Now, I think this info that I just gave you is very, very powerful knowledge. You can use this to fully automate all of these clusters and have them auto inserted into these chests right here. These barrels, for example, which are going to automatically be processed. And then we just have this auto piped back into our system. And that is what I'm going to get ready to set up. However, before I do that, I have this distraction to take care of. Oh my goodness, we got a lot of cast iron there. Let's see, a glyph. Oh, we got a pocket storage. Very nice. And a refill upgrade. Refill upgrades are really, really handy. And another pocket generator. Oh my goodness. And it's really nice. We got primal coal for that, which when we put primal coal in here, it has a burn multiplier, and it's actually producing, instead of, I think 60 that this produces, it's doing 120 with that 2 times multiplier. Now, yes, this is quite the task, as I do have to go in here for all of these recipes, and for every single chunk, I essentially need to build a recipe for. Yeah, it's going to take a little bit of time. And so I'm going to need a total of 13 of the riders. I just requested all of them, and they're going to slowly start building up. And I can't believe that we are already setting this up. So yes, I do have to get these placed in. Like I said, it does take, for some reason, a little bit of time for the variable card to like accept and go, hey, you know, I'm supposed to be in here. Just got to give it a moment. And for some reason, it does seem like if you click it in here and then click your inventory, sometimes it just goes in. Yeah, it's a little wonky, but I promise you this is going to save you so much time. Yep. So I have found just clicking until you no longer see like the background border And then once you see the background border gone, then you can click into your inventory. That seems to be the quickest way to get these in here. Now, I will say getting the items into here is actually the easy part, and exporting them out is where you actually have to use a variable card to define the items you want it to send somewhere. Now, thankfully, getting items into a system like this is pretty easy. We need to think of it from the perspective of this actual item interface. This is the network. So if we want to send items out of here, we need to export out of the network. And if we want to send items into the network, we need to import into the network. So in this case, I want to send items into the network, which means we need importers to be able to import into the network. Now, the item imports are the blue, of course. Blue is usually in modded corresponded to importing, but I'm just going to place these on the bottom of this chest. And this is going to allow me to send out. Now, I do have to cable everything over here. And this is where I like to sort of take my time. I'm just going to place these in. They will get waterlogged, which is really, really nice. And everything is going to look pretty nice once we get it all connected together. Now, is this super necessary to do this early on? No, not really. We could have probably waited, but I wanted to actually play around and also get to kind of show you guys too how integrated dynamics, which it is in most mod packs, can be used and how powerful this mod can actually be. Well, of course, when it's combined with integrated tunnels and integrated crafting. Now, interestingly enough, these importers actually won't do anything until we right click them and we put a variable card in here. Like I said, we just want it to be blank. And if we put this variable card inside of here, which is looking for a Boolean, it's basically looking for true or false. By default, it's false. And as soon as we put a variable card in here, we're basically saying true. And when it's true, it will then import all items. So as soon as I put that in there, we are ready to go. And this is going to be very, very quick, by the way, at pulling items out. Integrated dynamics by default is very, very fast. Yeah, there is really nothing that compares. And this can be made even faster by modifying these settings in here, specifically with our transfer rate. So yes, I think by default though, I'm not really going to bother with any of that. It's really good by default. Or if you do start to run into lag issues, I definitely recommend opening up these interfaces here and changing your tick operations to maybe 10 or something like that. Because by default, it's set to operate every single tick. And now for the fun part, where we actually get to hook up into here. Now, this is going to be exporters, right? Because we're going to be pulling these items out that we're crafting. So we are going to need 2 exporters. I'm just going to craft 1 more. And I love that we can do this now. It is so, so good. And then right here, I'm going to place that exporter. And then on the other side, I'm also going to place an exporter, considering we have these technically automated. So now this is where we get to define lists. So we are going to be sending a lot of copper and iron, and I know that that is really going to back these up. They're not going to be fast enough to really compete, I don't think. But we see right here, export all items, but there's one right here that says export items, and this is a list. This is the one that we're going to want to use, and we can use our logic programmer to define a list, which you can see right here. We just have to simply add our sort of list registries, and I can drag a cluster into here, and this is going to be iron. Now I'm going to split my iron and copper up because they are going to bog, and I'm going to try and split it about 7 and 6. So 7 items in one container, 6 in the other. And that's hopefully going to be enough. But to add another registry to this list, we just click the add button. And now I'm going to add aluminum. And I'm going to kind of skip every other. And I'm going to build out this list by adding the osmium to the next one. Then on the next one, I'm going to add diamond clusters. And then I'm going to skip the diamond clusters and go to lapis, and so on and so forth. You can see how pretty straightforward this is. And then next to the redstone, and then I'll just place my variable card in here, and all of my items are listed right here. So now, technically, I already have built a list, and whenever I place this inside here, which it's probably going to give me a headache as well. There we go. Once that list is there, it's going to start crafting and sending all of those items into this container to be processed. And man, it's at this point I'm really starting to realize that these may not be fast enough. It would be pretty cool down the road to have like a tempered glass jar automating for each 13 of these different resources. And then to balance everything out, we're just going to take the product chest and we are going to import back into our system the finished products for all items just like that. And this, my friends, is Autocrafting madness, and it is beautiful, and I hope you definitely learned something from this. Now, also don't forget that integrated dynamics cables can be facaded. So yeah, we can make these look however we want. We just have to combine it with a block. For example, if I want to hide those, I can. I kind of want access to them, but I did want to mention that they can be facaded. Now, I still don't know if this is enough. I might have to add 2 more jars, which I think would be pretty nice in this setup. But yeah, 2 more jars in this, and I think that we are going to be able to keep up. This is the only container that's not keeping up. This one is definitely draining. So I think, yeah, 2 more jars, and that should be good. Something I do want to note, by the way, you can, if you have the request available, hold control just like you can in other things, and you can partially autocraft. So when I just did that, I didn't have a piston in the crafting, but whenever I hit control, it actually went ahead and told this system to go ahead and craft that. And man, I tell you what, after getting those placed in, this looks absolutely beautiful. Oh my goodness. All of our resources are being generated right here and pumped right back into our storage system, where we can now take a look, for example, at iron, and we can see we have 1,500 items. So yes, we have 1,500 iron just sitting in here. That number is going to increase. Copper, for example, also increasing. Gold and diamonds now actually automated, and we are now producing those resources, all with the power of this very inconspicuous mod, Integrated Dynamics. But as much as I would hate to say it, this does not beat Applied Energistics. This is all temporary, because when we actually move into our sub base underwater, we will hopefully be switching everything over to Applied Energistics. But until then, this should hold us over and allow us to do more exploration. And until then, I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. And if you learned something new, whether it was about how to set up the storage or how to do all of the auto crafting, be sure to click that subscribe button, of course, if you haven't already. And well, definitely give this video a huge smack on that like button and comment down below if there's any other ways that you would have done something. Definitely be sure to let us know, so that way all of the community can share in that knowledge. Thank you. And of course, guys, with that being said, it's now time to thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. And that amazing thanks is going to go out to F1tastic. Thank you so much, by the way, for your amazing support and choosing to support me over on the Discord by becoming a Discord premium member and supporting in one of the best ways possible, and absolutely going above and beyond. You absolute boss. Guys, I hope that you enjoyed this, and I look forward to the next few episodes, as some real interesting things are going to start to take shape, which is going to be pretty cool. So if you're looking forward to that exploration, I hope to see you there. And as always, thanks for watching.